I'm here today to announce the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel, consistent with the Department of Justice regulations governing such matters.
This is my video update from Moscow, Russia on this Friday midday. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with an update on Niger. And it looks like we are heading towards a military intervention in Niger. The latest news is that the ECOWAS nations are indeed preparing for some sort of invasion, incursion into Niger in order to remove the military coup government and restore the previous government to power. The news is that U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, he has voiced his support for a military intervention from the ECOWAS nations into Niger, and I imagine that France is also supporting this and pushing for this as well. We have some news from the meeting between Newland and the military junta in Niger that, according to the AFP, the military officials, they actually told Newland when she was in Niger that they will kill the deposed president Bazoum if the collective West, if the United States, France, or the ECOWAS countries decide to invade Niger. So that's the latest on what is going on in Niger. We are heading towards a military intervention. We are heading towards a smash. We'll see what happens if and when the ECOWAS nations do indeed enter Niger, and we'll see if this broadens out to include France and the United States. So let's now move on to a New York Times article which claims that the United States reached a deal with Iran to free Americans for jailed Iranians and funds. 5 American detainees will eventually be allowed to leave Iran in exchange for Tehran gaining access to $6 billion for humanitarian purposes and the United States freeing several jailed Iranians. So that was a big story from the New York Times. $6 billion of those funds that were frozen, the Iranian funds that were frozen by the United States, will now be unfrozen, and in exchange for the money, which is Iran's money, the Iranians will release 5 American detainees. The U.S. said they will also release Iranian detainees. So that's the deal that the Biden White House has put in place with Iran. And I wonder why the Biden White House is making this deal. I wonder why they are making this deal. I can't figure it out just yet, but I'm sure in the near future we're going to understand why the Biden White House is doing this. Either way, I wonder if there's a 10% big guy fee on that $6 billion that's going to be released to back to Iran, or is the 10% big guy fee, does that only pertain to Ukraine? Anyway, let's see here. Some more Biden news. Biden was speaking to the media the other day, and he said that China is a time bomb. Quote, China is in many cases a ticking time bomb, Biden told the White House press pool. He said that China is facing economic difficulties, including high unemployment. Quote, when bad people have problems, they do bad things, Biden added. Biden claimed that he was seeking a rational relationship with China. I don't want to harm China, but I'm watching, That's what he told the White House press pool. Biden is such a clown, man. He is such a clown. I don't want to harm China, but I'm watching. Come on, man. I'm watching. I'm watching China. You could just replace everything that Biden said, just replace China with the USA. And you probably have an accurate statement from the US president. China is in many cases a ticking time bomb. USA is in many cases a ticking time bomb. That's probably a more accurate statement. When bad people have problems, they do bad things. Are you talking about China or are you talking about the Biden White House? I don't know. They really do live in a bubble. And they really do love to project. Boy, do they love to project. Oh, boy. So Biden calls China a time bomb, and then he says he doesn't want to harm China. Thank you, Biden. I'm sure Xi Jinping's going to call up Biden and say, "Thank you, Biden. We're so happy and relieved that you don't want to harm us. But yeah, we understand that you're watching us. We'll behave because we know that Biden is watching us." What a clown, man. God, the statements this guy comes up with. All right, so sticking with Biden, we have news from Bloomberg, which claims that the U.S. president, he is going to be asking Congress for $25 billion in additional funding. And $12 billion of those $25 billion is going to be allocated to disaster relief. And 13 billion of those 25 billion is going to go to Ukraine. 1 billion more is going to go to Ukraine than to disaster relief, than to helping out American citizens who are in trouble because of a disaster, natural disaster. For example, what's happening in Maui with these terrible fires. The Biden White House had to make sure that 1 billion more is going to go to Ukraine. They had to make sure that the 25 billion that's going to get split, 1 billion more is going to go to the Zelensky regime. They couldn't make it 12.5 and 12.5. No. They have to make sure that Ukraine gets most of the money. 10% big guy fee. That's why you have to add on the 10% big guy fee to the allocation of these funds. So Trump was speaking yesterday, and he said that Biden has gone crazy. And Trump said that Biden can't string two sentences together. True. And he said, our country is being destroyed by a man with the mind, ideas, and IQ of a first grader. For which I say, Trump, you're insulting first graders. All right, so let's move on now. Enough Biden. Enough Biden talk. Let's talk about walk on the wild side, Andrzej Duda, the president of Poland, and he did a Q&A with the Washington Post, with WAPO, and he made some interesting statements, but the statement that really stands out from this Duda interview is Duda saying that the counteroffensive has pretty much failed. That's what Duda admitted. He said that Ukraine can't really mount an effective counteroffensive. And then he said that Kiev does not have enough weapons to change the balance of power on the front lines. Effectively saying that this conflict has been lost. That was what Duda told the Washington Post. And then Duda told the WAPO that Poland is going to be taking the west of Ukraine. Just kidding. That's not what he told the Washington Post. But that's what he means. That's what he's trying to telegraph to the Zelensky regime. Yeah, yeah. You know, Duda wants the west of Ukraine. Remember when he made that trip to Lvov and all the people of Lvov, they got out onto the streets and they just surrounded Duda and they were like cheering him on and praising him. Just it looked like a rock star was in Lvov. You know that Duda, when he saw that, when he experienced that, that's when he made up his mind. He said, I want Lvov. I want the west of Ukraine. So he's the guy that always hugs Zelensky. Like he's always very touchy-feely with Zelensky. So you know he's going to betray him. That's a given. You know Duda's going to betray Zelensky. No doubt about it. Maybe Zelensky is betting on Duda taking the west of Ukraine, so that's Zelensky's off-ramp. That's the way for him to get out of this this mess that he is in. Move the capital of Ukraine to Lvov, and then Zelensky can enjoy his money and his power under the protection of Duda. Who knows? Anyway, we'll see what will happen. But I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing stuff out there. We'll see what's going to happen with Poland and the west of Ukraine. But I am 100% convinced that if there's one leader in Poland that absolutely covets the west of Ukraine and Lvov, it's Duda. He wants Lvov really bad. This is the photo that everyone takes, sitting right there in front of St. Basil's. That's the Instagram photo that you have to take if you come to Red Square. So Reznikov may have found his off-ramp, since we're talking about ways to get out of the catastrophe in Ukraine for the leadership of Ukraine and a way for them to exit this disaster while keeping their funds. It looks like Reznikov may be leaving the Ministry of Defense in Ukraine, and he will be appointed as ambassador to the UK. These are just rumors, but it could happen. I can see it. It's a good way for Reznikov to exit the scene from Kiev, to set up a residency in the UK and just stay there, right? That's the way for him to exit the coming catastrophe in Kiev. So that's the news about Reznikov. The foreign minister, Mr. Kuleba, Dmitry Kuleba, I call him Mr. Kalua, he came out with a statement yesterday, and he said that Zelensky will never negotiate with Putin. The only way that Ukraine will negotiate, according to the foreign minister of Ukraine, this is Ukraine's top diplomat, keep that in mind. The only way that Ukraine will negotiate is if two conditions are first met. And that is if Russia pulls back to what Mr. Kalua calls the 1991 borders, and if the Putin government resigns, if there's regime change in Moscow. Those are the only two conditions for negotiations to begin. That's just for negotiations to start. In other words, capitulation from Russia. That's the only way that Ukraine will begin to talk to Russia. So that's a statement from Ukraine's top diplomat, which means that there's not going to be any negotiations, there's not going to be any peace. And Mr. Kalua, Mr. Kuleba, the foreign minister, he's going to have to find his off-ramp, his exit out of Kiev. Reznikov appears to have found his, if these rumors are true. He's going to be ambassador to the UK, so maybe Mr. Kuleba can apply to be ambassador to the US or to Germany or something like that. Maybe that'll be his off-ramp, because according to his statement, there's going to be no chance for a negotiation or a ceasefire. So that is the statement from the foreign minister. There are rumors that the Zelensky regime is planning a mass mobilization of like the entire population. So it looks like Zelensky is ready to destroy whatever's left of Ukraine. So those are rumors, but we're starting to hear a lot of talk about a mass mobilization in Ukraine. Things are not going well at all in this counteroffensive. I don't even know if you can call it a counteroffensive anymore. So yesterday, the Russian military, they hit a variety of targets throughout Ukraine. They hit a mercenary facility, a facility that was housing mercenaries, actually a hotel, not even a facility, a hotel. The Reikarts Hotel in Zaporozhye was hit by Russian missiles. I believe it was missiles. Or was it drones? Not sure. I'm not sure if it was drones or missiles, but anyway, they demolished this hotel, and they demolished the mercenaries that were in this hotel. This is probably one of what will be many retaliations from the Russian military in response to all of the drone strikes and the drone attempts in Moscow and towards the Black Sea and in Crimea. So they got a mercenary facility in Zaporozhye. They also hit an oil depot in the Rivne region, which is in the west of Ukraine. They hit that as well. And this morning we had multiple drone and missile strikes throughout Ukraine, in Khmelnytsky, in Vinnytsia, in Kiev, in Ivano-Frankivsk, just everywhere throughout Ukraine. There were Russian missile strikes, and the main takeaway from all of this is that Ukraine air defense is absolutely helpless. It's a no-show. Number one, Red Square. Raznaya Ploshchad, number one. That's an interesting address to have as the rain starts coming down. So we'll wrap up this video as it begins to rain. We have news from T-Online portal in Germany, which claims that Olaf Scholz is ready to send Taurus cruise missiles, which have, I believe they have a 500-kilometer range, long-range missiles from Germany to Ukraine, and the Olaf Scholz government is ready to sign off on this. This would be a massive escalation on the part of Germany, but Olaf Scholz has one condition before he hands over the long-range missiles. He wants the Biden White House to hand over ATACMS, long-range missiles, to Kiev as well. So basically, it's the same conditions that Olaf Scholz put in place for the Leopard tanks. Remember those conditions with the Leopard tanks where Olaf Scholz said, I'll hand over German Leopards if the Biden White House hands over Abrams, and then Olaf Scholz, being the dummy that he is, he handed over the Leopard tanks, and the Biden White House came out with a statement and said, yeah, we'll hand over the Abrams in about a year. And so Biden made a fool of Olaf Scholz, which really speaks to the intelligence level of Olaf Scholz, the fact that he was embarrassed and conned by Joe Biden. Anyway, it's the same condition with the ATACMS for Olaf Scholz. Now, we'll give you these long-range missiles if the U.S. hands over ATACMS. And no doubt the Biden White House will tell Olaf Scholz, sure, go ahead. We'll hand over ATACMS. but you give over the Taurus missiles first, and Olaf Scholz is going to say, okay, I'll hand over the Taurus missiles. Mr. Biden, if you say so, if you say you're going to hand over the ATACMS, I'll give the Taurus missiles now. And Germany's going to hand over the Taurus long-range missiles. And then the Biden White House is going to come out with a statement, and they're going to say, yeah, we'll hand over the ATACMS missiles in a couple of years. That's what's going to happen. That is exactly what is going to take place. So that's the news out of Germany. This is going to be a massive escalation, by the way, on the part of Germany, and Russia's going to make sure that Germany pays a price for this. I don't know how or when or in what way this is going to happen, but Russia's not going to forget Germany's escalation. That's for sure. So let's do a clown world, and we'll wrap it up from Red Square. We're going to go into this small little church right here as well. One of my favorite churches in Moscow. Let's start off with an article from the Telegraph, which has the title, "It is time to kick Putin's Russia off the UN Security Council." So we're back to this. We're back to Russia and the Security Council narrative, which we heard about during the beginning of this conflict, that Russia should not be allowed in the Security Council. Then midway through the SMO, we heard more articles from the Collective West media about how Russia should not be in the Security Council and they should be kicked off, which is impossible. It's not going to happen. There's no mechanism at the United Nations to kick a country out of the Security Council. A permanent member of the Security Council can't happen. But now we're back to this narrative. I said a couple of days ago, you got to cut the Telegraph some slack. And all of the Collective West mainstream media, cut them a little bit of slack, because there is a writer's strike in Hollywood, and they just don't have the script writers anymore to come up with propaganda narratives, so they have to recycle the previous propaganda narratives. And so they're back to this one, kick Russia off of the Security Council. And, if that's the plan from the Telegraph, if that's what they're arguing for, and they're basing it on Russia's aggression or invasion of Ukraine, that's the reason to kick Russia off of the Security Council, then I say, let's apply the rule to all the members on the Security Council, which would mean that France, the U.S., and the U.K. should absolutely be kicked out of the Security Council. They should be kicked out for Iraq, for Libya, for Syria, for Serbia, for Afghanistan, for Niger, which is about to happen. That's going to happen soon as well. So, if you're going to apply this rule to Russia, well, then you have to apply it to all the members of the Security Council, in which case the only country that's going to be left in the Security Council is going to be China, I guess. That's it. That'll be it. It'll be a one-country permanent member of the Security Council. It'll be China. That'll be it. So let's see here. We'll do two more clown worlds. How about this one? Estonia is going to provide more weapons to Ukraine. They came out with this announcement the other day, and they are going to provide, get this, 150 handguns and ammunition to Kiev. The country's defense ministry has announced 150 handguns. The defense minister, he put out a statement, something along the lines of, Estonia's going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes, and we're going to provide these weapons in order to help Ukraine continue to fight Russia. So they're going to give Ukraine 150 handguns. And we'll do a final clown world. And this is coming from a football match, a Europa Conference League qualifier between Aris Thessaloniki and Dynamo Kiev. Now, during this match, the Greek Aris fans, they had a banner in the stands which said "Smash Azov you know what. That's what the banner said as they were playing Dynamo Kiev. And a bit of a backstory to this story is that the other day, Dynamo Kiev fans that are part of the Ukrainian army reportedly wrote messages on missiles applauding Dynamo Zagreb for a fight that took place on Monday, which saw another football club, AEK Athens, saw one of their fans actually was killed in this fight between football fans. So Dinamo Zagreb was playing AEK Athens. This is what I'm getting from these tweets. I haven't been following this story too closely, so if I make a mistake, forgive me. But from what I understand, AEK Athens was playing Dinamo Zagreb. There were fights that occurred, and an AEK Athens football fan lost his life. And then you had Dynamo Kiev. Their fans wrote on a missile applauding what Dinamo Zagreb had done to this Athens AEK football fan. And then Aris football fans who were playing Dinamo Zagreb in this Europa match, they put up this banner, smash Azov. You know what. So that's the story. I hope I got that one correct. I haven't been following this story. Anyway, that's the message from Greece. Greek football fans. All right, everybody, that is the video, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, and Rockfin, and go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Good Day. Let's see if we can enter this church and film. This is where I started my video from yesterday, and this is where I am ending my video for today. Let's find the coffee shop to edit the video and get it up to everybody. The Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Good Day.